Okay. So yeah, do you again? It's not good enough just to say you read the text. It's not good enough just to say, well, here's what I read in the text, and then describe what you see, right? Um, that's important. You need to do that, right? It's the first thing you need to do, right? But then you need to develop your ideas. So you want to turn the text into a tool where you're not just agreeing or disagreeing with the author, but you are generating your own ideas about what the author, the categories, the topics, the questions, the problem that the author is talking about, right? So that you become a critical thinker in your own right. So, do you agree with Nietzsche's argument? Do you disagree with Nietzsche's argument? What are your reasons for it? What's your evidence for it? What often happens with Nietzsche, however, is people agree with his argument but don't want to agree with it. So they they nod their head like, yeah, that's the way it is, or that's in my mind that's the way, or in my head, my brain, intellectually I agree with that, but on some deep sort of emotional level, people don't want to agree with it, and that's where you get into this conundrum of critical thinking, this aporia, right? That the Greeks called it, right? And here, what might help you is to develop some different rhetorical moves. On the one hand, on the other hand, both and at the same time, but both and at the same time. Whereas, where you're juxtaposing sort of competing ideas, right? And so this is ultimately where you're going with critical thinking, or where you need to go with critical thinking, because critical thinking is dealing with complexity, and complexity is not an either or proposition, no matter how much we want it to be an either or proposition. It's basically we're talking about multiple things at once, and we want to try to you know uh, deal with these sort of contradictory things. And oftentimes our language, or at least the language that we have learned, isn't really up to the task. So we have to sort of develop new ways about talking about complexity. Okay. Looking at group B, language here, right? So there's the group, keywords. Language is metaphor, not grammar. Language is interpretation, not truth. Language is the will to power, not the will to truth. So again, what is he arguing against? He's arguing against language as a neutral, essential, grammatical, truthful, scientifically, historically truthful sort of concept or institution, right? That's when we get deep down to it. That's what we think about language often.